to Mexico Monday. I'm super excited to talk to y'all again this week. If this is your first time here, I am Dr. Raquel, and what I do with Best Life Abroad is I help people get all the information that they need so that they can go and live their best lives abroad. And so today we are going to be talking about Mexico, and there are two things I want to talk to y'all about today. So one is I get a lot of questions about why Mexico, and they aren't always I'm interested questions as opposed to I'm afraid questions. Why would you move there? There are cartels. What are we doing? And so I want to touch on that today. And then also, where are you going to be moving in Mexico? And not just Mérida, but where in Mérida? How are you choosing that place? And so I'm going to talk to you about those two things today. And so I made some notes. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm looking at, my notes here, because I want to make sure I touch on all the points for all of the things with you today. Okay. So according to the International Safety Indices, Mérida is consistently ranking as one of the safest cities in North America. And this is including the United States and Canada. And there are some reports that show that it is only second to Quebec City in some reports, which is in Canada. So it is always showing up as Mexico's safest major city. This is in terms of statistics, but also traveler safety rankings. Usually with traveler safety rankings, that's how safe is it for you to walk around the city at night by yourself? Because obviously lots of tourists are going to be going places at night. They don't know where they're going. And so, you're going to be wandering through different neighborhoods. And so it's safe for that as well. So for the people in the United States who are it's so dangerous, why are you going there? I want you to think about this, because that also includes the United States. That means that Mérida is safer than any city that you live in. Just saying. And so it's important to put that into perspective. We have been shown an image of Mexico that may not be the most accurate. Okay, so it's important for you to experience things in order to know whether or not your fears are there because of something someone told you or whether it's actually reality. And of course, there are unsafe places everywhere, including the US, which is why it's not one of the top 2 safest places in North America. And so, safety varies by neighborhood, the same as in the US. If I go to one neighborhood in the same city, it may be very safe. If I go to another neighborhood, it may not. Daytime versus nighttime, it may be a completely different vibe, which is important when you're doing any scoping trips or visiting places, to make sure that you're experiencing those places you want to maybe live in or you're thinking about in the daytime as well as in the nighttime. Property crime versus violent crime. I lived in Madrid, and you may not be murdered while you're in Madrid, but if you're deciding to go to Madrid so that you can turn up and party, you probably won't be leaving with a wallet, because pickpocketing is a super big thing in Madrid. I literally sat next to a person who was swindled by 2 old ladies, pretending to ask them questions, and then left with their whole book bag. So, it is very different whether or not we're talking about property crime versus violent crime, you're going to get mugged versus you're going to get, someone might try to steal your phone or try to steal your wallet. And then also what you're doing in these different places. You need to be smart wherever you're going. If you want to get completely drunk and walk around the city, whatever happens to you, we don't know. No matter what city that is, no matter how safe that city is. That's whether you're in the US, Mexico, or anywhere else in the world. So it's just important to think about those things and not just move into things with assumptions. Because like I said, according to statistical data, right now anyway, Mérida is safer than any city that you're living in or going to in the United States. Okay, and that's Mexico, Mérida, Mexico. So let's just put that into perspective. And then also you want to think about am I talking about safety in the center versus the outskirts of the city? because usually the center of the city is where there will be more tourists. One thing I will say about the vibe of Mexico is you will see people, like especially in the touristy areas, there will be people selling you things every few steps you go. If you don't like that, the center might not be for you. It is not for me. I love going into the center, like seeing the people doing the things, walking through the parks. We walked through parks a lot at night. There were a million people. And so it's also very more heavily populated. So in terms of like the feel of safety, you're there with a lot of other people maybe at night. But also like I'm not trying to move anywhere where I am going to be asked to buy something every 2 feet. That's not going to be the place for me. So the center is not, it's a place I love to visit, that I love to like go with my kids and my husband, but it's not where I would want to live. And then also there are lots of gated communities. Versus like, walkable neighborhoods. And there's also like proximity to things like hospitals, to if you have a car, gas stations, to kids' schools. One thing that I have consistently heard from other people who have moved to places in Mexico is to figure out if you have kids going to school, where that kid's school is going to be. Because a lot of people who I've talked to have actually like picked a school, picked where they're going to live, and then we're like, we'll find a school later. And then got a longer term rental only to find that the school that their kid really vibes with is like on the complete other side of town. And so it's been like a hassle trying to get them back and forth to their kids' schools, where ultimately every single person has ended up moving closer to where their kids' school is. And so, things like that will impact where you decide to be. And for me, community feel is super important. Like I'm an energy person. I vibe off the energy that's around me. And so when we went to like different neighborhoods, what's really cool about Mérida too is like you can be in the city, in the center of the city, but we would be in an Uber and like drive maybe 4 minutes and it would have a completely different vibe to it. And we'd be like, where are we? And they're like, Centro. And I'm like, but where in the centro? Because this is amazing. And then we would like still be driving like 2 more minutes, totally different vibe, and you're still in the center. It's crazy. I love it. But it's like, you can go like the center, and then you like go like a few minutes out, a few miles out, and you're in a completely different feel and vibe of the city. And so I super love that. But also, and it makes you feel like you're in like a different place. You can literally drop a few minutes and you feel like you're in a completely different place. But the area that my family and I loved the most was called Gran Parque de la Plancha. And of course, it has to deal with these children. So it is a really cool area where they just have like these huge, ginormous playgrounds. And so we would go there. Like when we first stumbled on it, like we were just, my kids kept saying, can we go to the park? Can we go to the park? Can we go to the park? So we're like, all right. So I was just like Googling parks. And so we ended up going there by accident. But then it's like this huge park, but it has like huge, like 3 huge playgrounds all in different areas of the park. And so, so when we got there, we were like, yes, y'all can play here for some hours. Go ahead. And then behind one of the parks is actually like a huge food hall. So it became our spot. Like we found ourselves like every day ending up over in that area. And so also like one of the things that I think really drove us to it, being honest, is that it reminded us of one of our favorite spots in Belgium. And so we used to go to this place. It was like this park with a super big, huge food hall. And that was like our favorite spot. And so it just was a reminder of like that space. So we gravitated towards that. I met another expat that was there, but it also wasn't like, I kind of had my eye out for like, where are the expats? Like, cause I'm not trying to live with a whole bunch of Americans either. I did not move to Mexico to live with a bunch of Americans, but there were not lots of areas like that. There were not just like American areas. And so that was great to see. I did meet another woman who was from, I think, Pennsylvania. I think that's where she said she was from. But you know, it was great to just exchange contact. I saw a beautiful black lady with a beautiful fro, and I was like, "Oh, hello, you. Do you live here?" And she was like, "Yeah, for 2 years. It's been awesome." So it's always nice to just kind of have those interactions as well. And yeah, so that was one of our favorite spots. So that's like when we are looking for, now that we are like looking for, okay, where do we want to be? That is like the central point of where we're looking at. And in terms of like how are we finding our place, this kind of moves into the next question, that of like, you know, how are we deciding exactly where we want to live in Merida? And I think it's just important to point out a few things first. Like, one is, you know, there are online listings everywhere. And from everything that I'm reading, they are like, do not do anything long term. Sight unseen, don't do it. You need to go like be in the place and then like decide if this is where I want to be long term. Obviously, you can't do that with everything. Like, I can't go back and be like, oh, is this a place I want to stay in for a week when I get here? I cannot do that. And so because I can't, I'm not making any long term decisions until I am able to, like, until I'm going to be there, boots on the ground, and then I can go see. Because you cannot smell an online listing. You cannot hear an online listing. You cannot feel the heat patterns of an online listing. You don't know what type of flood zone you're in with an online listing. They are not going to list, by the way, it might flood here anytime there's a heavy rain. You don't know what your neighbors are going to be like with an online listing. And so with that, it's like super important to be able to say, okay, like, this is what I'm looking for sure before committing to it. And so that's pretty much what we are trying to do. We plan on just getting a short-term listing. I know I want to go to these streets at 10 p.m. That's another thing that we did with the park, Gran Parque de la Plancha. We went to, like, when we stumbled across it, it was during the daytime. We also went back in the afternoon. We also went back in late in the evening. And every time there were like kids all over the place, parents all over the place, and the food hall. And so it was great. And nobody was speaking English either. So it was wonderful. And so, you know, I just want to, when we lived in Belgium, we lived above a chocolate shop. Hello. We were waking up to cookies and chocolate every morning. It was amazing. And so that was where we just stumbled on that, and it ended up being an awesome thing. But also, you know, I know that Mérida is hot. That is my main concern with Mérida, is that I know it is hot. Even like meeting other like Mexican people while we were there, it was 90 degrees in January. It's 90 degrees now in February. So what is it going to be in August? I do not know. And so I don't know if like I want to be somewhere else in the summers in Mérida other than Mérida. So because of that, I definitely don't plan on doing anything long term. Even the people, like I was saying, the Mexican people that we met were like, it is hell in the summers. Like, it is so hot. And I'm like, if you who was born here say that and you're still hot, okay, baby, we're going to have to think about this in serious terms. So yeah, so that's what we are planning on doing, just short-term rental. Most people will tell you Airbnbs are super overpriced. However, from the research that I saw, what I plan to do is, because I know like Airbnb also has like standards of rental that I am familiar with and accustomed to, what we will probably do is get a short-term, like week or two rental with Airbnb when we move there. And then once we do that, Airbnb also has like really high fees for like apartment owners. And so what I will also do is, once we have decided, like if we're in an Airbnb and we love it, and we would like to even stay in that Airbnb longer term, then what we will do is try to like negotiate a longer term contract with the owner without the Airbnb fees. So hopefully that would drop the price down of the Airbnb. This is something that I've heard that other people do as well. And then you can have a longer term rental and you don't have to pay the fees that Airbnb pays, that Airbnb charges, which hopefully will drop down the cost. So that is our plan. So we plan on going, getting an Airbnb short term. If we don't like that one, then we could get another shorter term Airbnb and kind of hop until we see where we want to be, what we want to be doing, and then see if we can negotiate something so that we can get a price that's more in our price range. Right now, these Airbnbs are ridiculous. So yeah, I don't plan on paying Airbnb long term for sure. But yeah, that's the plan. We're just gonna get a short term and then see what we can negotiate. And I think what I mentioned before in terms of like heat, in terms of like climate, in terms of like neighborhoods, it is just very important that you consider all the things when you're thinking of exactly where you want to be. In terms of like schools, your kid's school can jack up a lifestyle, let me tell you. Because my child in the U.S. would get out of school at 4:15, and it is a total lifestyle cramper to get out of school so late. And so I definitely am super excited about like having a different situation, but also now we can choose that much more intentionally than we have been able to while we've been here in the U.S. Okay, so yeah, those are the things that I wanted to share with you. Like, moving abroad is not a huge part of being able to do it. It's like visas and residence cards, but it's not just about that. It's really about like lifestyle alignment. And like there have been people who are like, I hate Mexico because it's too hot. And I'm like, that's like moving to Arizona and saying I hate the US because it's too hot. There are many other places that are not that hot. So find somewhere else. Or don't. But don't say you don't like a whole country because of it, because it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? There's safety, there's climate, there's neighborhood, there's vibe, there's feel, there are people. All those things matter just as much as a visa, honestly. And so if you're thinking about Mexico, you want to talk through any of this, I have opened up a few move abroad clarity calls if anybody is interested in those. I'm not doing a whole lot of those, but I've opened a few because people have asked because of the Mexico Mondays. So if you would like to hop on a call and we can kind of talk through what you're thinking, I'd be happy to do that. Head over to www.bestlifeabroad.com and click on work with me at the top, and then I'm ready to move abroad. And then you can set up a clarity call there. But I know you got this. Let's go. Mexico or bust. Mexico or bust. All right. I'll talk to y'all next week. Bye.